So this is now going to be a laser projector retrofit on a Y61 Patrol. As you can see, that's how it looks. Has the bi-LED section on top and the laser high beam at the bottom, including the little two lenses on the sides. Obviously, this is the factory headlight. This is the kit I bought. LK3 LED laser. Comes in this fancy little box. Sticker, some paperwork with instructions. More instructions, and here's the projector. This is how it looks. It's pretty cool looking. Got a massive fan on the back. This is technically a 2.5, but with everything all together, it looks more like a 3-inch projector. It has your bi-LED section on top and your laser at the bottom. It comes out of right there. It's kind of hard to see. And there's two other smaller LEDs in the corners. And yeah. It also comes with a pretty beefy ballast. I already opened it up and saw that it's all just potted and waterproof at least, which is really good. Especially for, you know, something you buy off AliExpress. It's coming with two pigtails. This one is for the bi-LED, this one's for the laser. And then you have your ground. White is low beam, red is high beam. I guess it's a joint ground, so you don't really need to, you know, tap it off the ground to get signal for the high beam. And yeah. Now we're going to open these up. This is the end product. Blacked out housing, blacked out DRL. And the owner of these headlights wanted the indicator clear. So now we're going to do the same to this one. The usual 3 bolts that hold it in place. One at the bottom here, one at the side over here. Pull out all the screws all along the back, heat it up, and pull it open. I put some protective covering on the lens so that it doesn't mess it up. And yeah, and we're pulling all the screws and heat it up and get everything good to go. Here's the lens completely off. You just be careful not to let any of the glue stick on the inside of the lens, because obviously you don't want that to happen. Just take it onto the side so there's no strands sticking out. And you can see I kept the wrap on the lens, that way it stays protected. It's a brand new headlight, I don't want it to get messed up. Next we're going to do is remove the little splitter thing in the middle over here, I have no idea what it's called. And then we're gonna roughly see where the projector sits, mark it out, and show where you need to cut it out, because again, it is a big unit, so there's no threaded shaft or anything, so everything is custom made. So first, let's pull the cover off. Let's not tear it apart this time. Now obviously you need to mark up on a wall or something where your factory bulb projects so that you can get the cutoff right. but luckily this has a rather square-ish rear section. That way, and you can simply follow the lines within the bowl to get your alignment about, I'd say about 70% accurate. And simply you just wanna, what I did on the other headlight was I took it like basically one square, the next immediate line for each I guess section of the bowl, and that lined up perfectly with the overall size of this. But just to be safe, feed the wire through, just hold it against the bowl and see where everything lines up. And then get a marker and mark it out. That way you can see where you need to cut. It's all gonna get painted black anyways, so I can make as many mistakes as I want with the marker. It's not a big deal. But that's roughly how much I need to cut out in order for the back of the projector to fit in. Now the next step would obviously be to take the entire bowl out, which is Phillips head over here, 8mm up top. Just unwind it all the way. It has a little ball joint. You can just pop it out of its socket and it'll come right out. Here's the bowl all out. As you can see, a little ball joint over here and the two thread shafts that go into here. Now I'm going to cut this little hole out. I'm going to do this off camera because it makes a huge mess. This whole chunk does get in the way, so I end up just making the line basically square around this whole bulb holder area. All right, now that I have the hole cut out, you can see it lines up relatively flat with the general fitment of the original bulb. Now with the projector, I can slide it through and make any further adjustments needed. As you can see, for the most part, the lid over here is aligned with the line in the back. So that shows that I got it right for the most part. Over here you can see everything fits through with no issues. Now as for the tricky bit, with these projectors I gotta remove the two screws over here to remove the shroud to get access to the 4 mounting holes, which is right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This will use a nut and bolt method. Obviously there's no threaded shaft because that wouldn't make any sense for the fans. I recommend picking up one of these kits. They're like a couple of dollars on eBay, eBay, AliExpress, whatever you want to find. Has locking nuts, has the bolts, it's the right size. I believe it's an M4 bolt, something like that. And has the rubber tube that you can cut to shape so that it mounts flat on the curved sections over here. Here you can see the projector. It's pretty fancy looking. If you can, not sure if you can see, but there's a 1 LED in here, which is a bi LED for the low beam actually, and there's 2 at the bottom for the high beam, including the laser. The laser is more of a very narrow beam as opposed to overall increasing your width and height. It looks pretty cool, and that's about it. Can't say much about it. The output's definitely really good. I will say that for sure. Now when mounting this, you want to mark your holes through each hole. I'll do a little pick, scratch up the chrome. But before you do this, for sure, you want to mount the bowl back into the headlight and mount this back onto the car and power this on just to make sure that everything is right. You need to make sure your angle left to right. You may get the height right instantly because again you're using the factory bulb holder, but you will need to make sure your alignment is right in terms of the angle because there is a lot of play in this. Alright, so now I brought the car with my current HID setup, Centec ballast 9-light projectors, and I parked it as far away as possible from the wall, but where I can properly see the cutoff, so that way now I know roughly where the current output is. I'm now going to mount the projectors, the new projectors, onto the car. That way I can align it and mark the holes for the mounting bracket for it. Here's one of the projectors installed. It's kind of hard to see. There's a rough mock-up. I guess I need to tape up the light bleeding up top. You can see the difference in the projection. That's the LED, that's the HID. You can see how dim that is. It's a pretty well lit area, so it's not the best judgment, but you can clearly see the difference between the two. And now I'm going to mount the other side and get that all lined up. See how it looks. Alright, as you can see, here are both lights on the car. It's currently very loose right now because I have just held them with tape. Now I'm going to hold it in place while I mark all the holes to where it needs to. Now I'm going to hold it in place and mark all the holes where it needs to be to secure the projector to the housing using the 1, 2, and the 2 on the other side. And this is basically it. I've adjusted the bowl accordingly to what it used to be, or at least what it was from when I first took the headlights apart, just to have a rough idea. It doesn't have to be completely, it could be a little higher, it could be a little lower. Just make sure your bowl is adjusted to the middle first. That way you can use the factory adjustments to move it up and down and get it in line. Alright, kind of forgot to film this part, but I marked the 4 holes as you saw earlier. I drilled them and I put the bolts through. And now I need to open this hole up a little bit. That's why it's a little bit loose. But now I'm going to show you how to cut up the little silicone or rubber hose or whatever this is, just so that it stays flat against the mount over here. I put a nut on the inside after the projector. If you can see right there, that's like a locking nut to hold it against the projector properly so it doesn't loosen up over time. While you use locking nuts, which are right here, these nylon locking nuts, if you can see the blue inside that, to secure it completely to the projector bowl. First, you cut the hose at kind of an angle. See if that works for your application. Change the angle around. Okay, I need a little bit more, so I'm going to cut it a little bit more steeper angle. That should be better. As you can see now, if we put a nut on the back, it's going to be flush. It's going to keep it perpendicular to the nut bolt and not, cross thread it or like twist it. And I don't need that much, so I'm going to cut it here. Don't need anything crazy. And it's simple as that. Put a washer on. Get one of the locking nuts. It is a little tedious, but you'll get there eventually. As you can see, it's not flat against there. It's nice and secure. That's just one bolt in there. The other one I have to tighten it a little bit more, obviously. I have to re-drill this hole a little, well, make the hole a little bit bigger because it's not exactly lined up. But just repeat this for all 4. And then you will be cutting the ends of the bolts off. Before you cut it off, actually cut off a little bit off, slide it into your headlight back again, and then double check the alignment. Just make sure it's not angled, because if you look at it from the top, which would be this way, you want it to be facing along this line in my case, but follow your headlight and see how it looks and how it mounts up and everything. So here's the car all done. See, it's all mounted up. Here's a better view of it. It's very simple to wire it up. There's only 3 wires: black, white, and red. The red's the high beam for the laser, the white is the low beam, and the black is the ground. I simply have it hooked up to an entire H4 relay harness. That way it splits up the factory high and low signal. But I still believe you could get this to run on a simply plugging it into the factory H4 harness, since the laser and the low beam are 2 separate options. So, and both stay on at the same time. Here's roughly where the output is. And you can see the high beam spotlight. My car isn't exactly centered in the parking spot, but you can see one on the pillar and one all the way down at the end of the wall right there. It's turned off, and then excuse the beeping, and you can see pretty sharp white cutoff. I'll have a few videos of it, clips of it driving at night later. Here's the cutoff on the wall. As you can see, it has kind of like a weird curved ends. I'm guessing it's simply just to avoid blinding incoming drivers. And here's how it looks on the car. Pretty sure I filmed this earlier. And here's the laser high beam section. The laser is the entire lower section. In the middle is a laser. On either side there's small helper LEDs, I guess. I do have LED fogs too, so let's see how does that look. Alright, there's not much of a difference, but you can see that here's the LED fogs. Here is a drive through the city. Abu Dhabi is a very well lit city, so it's kind of hard to showcase the output right now. I have a few pictures of the cutoff and all the output in the dark that I'll post up in the end. My GoPro sadly died when I was there, but you can see it's a decent amount of throw. I have them aim a little bit low just to be safe, and you can see on that Civic right there, it's pretty good. And as I enter the underpass over here, you'll see where, even though it's a very well lit area, you can still kind of see the cutoff and the output on the road. It's pretty impressive, especially for, you know, with all these street lights. And granted, these are a pretty expensive kit, so they better do something good. But here you go. You can still see it on the wall on the right. And here's a darker patch of road right here. You can see the cutoff on the side. Yep, good there. Here we are. There's some white street lights. You can still see it, but it's pretty impressive. You can see the pretty sharp cutoff on the fence on the left. And here we are approaching a dark spot on the road. And there you go. It's honestly really impressive for what it is. I never expected to have LEDs this bright, especially in a city that's well lit like this. And we're gonna come up to this alleyway right here, which is actually pretty dim. That should give you a better idea of how far it reaches, even though these are dipped a little bit low. There you go. Here's the high beams, which is insanely bright, honestly. Like I can see past this alleyway and into the next alleyway across the street. That's how bright it is. Here's the high beams again.